Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Monday, February 9th, 2026, and this is episode 322. I'm Carol, also known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. Hi there, it is Carol from the future. As you will have just heard, I recorded this episode on Monday. Unfortunately, when I went to edit it, I had a problem with the editing program. It updated as I opened it, and then after that, I could not see the video portion of my recording. I could only hear the audio. So I had just resigned myself to the fact that there wasn't going to be a new episode before we went on holidays. However, just a short time ago, I thought I would give it another try. I opened it up, it updated again, and lo and behold, it's working again. So I am just going to let this episode unfold as I recorded it on Monday. I do not have time to record a new one, but I do have a couple of new cast-ons since then. So I'm going to kind of insert a little bit of updated video in those portions. So sit back, get yourself something to drink and a project to work on, and I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope you're all doing well and that you've had a good week or so since we last chatted. I am flying by the seat of my pants today. I'm recording on a bit of a whim, and I have very little time in which to do it. It's almost 4 o'clock. And we have curling this evening, so there's a good chance that this episode won't actually get out until Tuesday, but I wanted to take advantage of the little bit of time I had. There are a couple of projects that are at a point where I want to show them to you before I do the next step, and plus I really wanted to get an episode out before Cameron and I head out on holidays on Thursday. So it shouldn't take too long because I don't have a lot of projects I've been working on this week. Last weekend I woke up on Saturday morning with a really stiff, sore neck and back, and it persisted for about 4 or 5 days. And so I wasn't doing a whole lot of crafting. I kind of made up for it since then, so I do have a few things to show you. But I've really just been concentrating my attention on 3 projects. The first of which are my Christmas Eve cast-on socks. I cast these on, as you may be guessing, on December 23rd. They are my usual top-down vanilla sock, knit on a 2mm needle, and they're knit from West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply Sparkle in the Mulled Wine colorway, which I just adore. I think this is my favorite West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas colorway, and I think the Silent Night colorway is probably my second favorite, although I do like them all. So I worked on these in the car, coming and going from my mom's, and finished them up earlier, or I guess last week. It's Monday, so yeah, kind of late last week. I can't remember exactly. So I'll bring that in. I had started recording. We're sitting in my dining room, and I had started recording sitting in a different position, and then some sun broke through. It is overcast right now, and it's been raining a bit, and so right when I started recording, the sun came out, and then it was coming in from a different angle, so I moved, and now of course the sun's gone, but I think this should still work. Anyway, 2x2 rib, 64 stitches, German short row heel, rounded toe. So love, 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 and happy to have those to wear next December holiday time, Christmas time. The other knitting project I've been concentrating on is one of my Ice Landscape shawls by Stephen West. Here's a black and white photo of it. And once again, I'll show you the color photo if I can find it. I'm still a paper pattern person. I like to have things on, like in my hot little hands, and I can make check marks and notes and things like that. Here we go. Here's the color version. So if you've been watching for a little while, you will know that I fell in love with the shawl when it was released, I think in November. And I couldn't make up my mind between two different color palettes that were featured in the Stephen and Penelope yarn shop. And so I ended up purchasing both color palettes, but at a lower cost from Holst Garn. I kind of matched up the colors as best as I could and decided to knit both of them in tandem. However, this week I did concentrate on the Geyser palette. I took this up with me to my mom's to work on somewhat, and then have picked it up later, or I did pick it up later last week again. And so probably not the best lighting to show you, but you will have seen this before. So section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've been working on the mountain section. I'm just going to spread it out so I can hopefully show it to you pretty well. And I'm on the 6th of 8 colors now. So I still have this lighter green. Yeah, it's not the best light, sorry guys. This lighter green and then this dark navy blue to go. And then I will put it down and pick up the Winter Jewels palette again. I think this, especially once it's blocked and you see the shawl in its entirety, I just think that's I think the section that really drew me in. And especially with this color palette, it just reminds me of sort of mountains at a distance with the white snow-covered peaks, although it's actually a really icy blue. And then the different shades of blue, and then the green at the bottom. So I've got this short row patterned section down to a science. But even so, I'm always relieved when I get to the end of the very long row. There's almost 500 stitches by now. Yeah, I'm always relieved when I get to the end and I have the correct number of stitches. The first couple of rounds, or couple of rows I should say, on both shawls, I did mess up and have to pick some back and correct it. But yeah, now I'm very careful to check each time I start a new mountain and make sure that I'm in the right spot. So still really enjoying this project, and definitely getting my money's worth out of the pattern and the yarn, because this is hours and hours and hours of entertainment. Just popping in here to show you this in better lighting. And here are those mountains. So I just have this tundra green and dark blue to go in the mountain section. All right, so the third project that I've been working on is my spinning. So part of my plans for the first quarter of this year is to finish up some works in progress, the shawl being one of them, and this spinning project being another. And I'm sorry, I realize the lighting really isn't good. I've got my light overhead here, but the light from outside is fading, but that gives you an idea. So this is the tapestry color from Sweet Georgia Yarns, and this is a Corriedale yarn. Whoops, I think I just bumped the table. And I've done a 3-ply. So I had 3 braids of this fiber. I split them in half vertically into 4. And I spun 2 of those lengths onto 3 bobbins. So 2 lengths from each braid onto 3 bobbins, plied the 3 together to get this big skein. Now that was back in the fall of 2024. So a lot of time has gone by since I picked this up, but I was really determined to finish it. So I had divided the remaining halves of each of the braids into bags. I had little notes. I had it rolled up in such a way that I would start with the same ends and attempt to recreate the same yarn. I'm not sure how successful I will be. I have a feeling that I may have spun the second half maybe a little bit thinner, or a bit thicker. On the other hand, it's still pretty fine, so I might be okay. So this is braid number 2. It's still pretty fine. If you look at it, it actually is very fine. So I have 2. Gotta make sure I keep them separate. I guess it's not so important now because they are all gonna get applied together. And there are differences, or there were differences between the braids, which is why I decided to do a 3-ply. It does kind of muddy the colors, but I think it's really pretty. And there are definitely sections where you have the same colors kind of playing on to each other, like there. So, yoo-hoo, I finished the 3rd braid on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. And then what I also did is on top of that, I wound the remaining singles from the 3rd braid of this fiber. And so I just put them on this one that looks a little fatter, and that's because I just attached the remaining and just ran it through my wheel on a lighter tension. I didn't want to over twist the yarn, but I wanted it to give it a little bit more twist as it went back onto the bobbin. And so now I'm going to take all 3 and ply them together. And hopefully come up with something that looks and weighs, or not weighs, it's all going to be the same weight, but has the same grist, I think they call it, which is the amount of yardage per weight. And so, yeah, I'm hoping it's very similar so that I can use them in a project. So what I did do when I wound off the yarn from, I had extra yarn on, I think, bobbins 1 and 3. I did note what I had started with so that I could kind of attach this in such a way that I will be continuing the direction of what I spun this. So where I left off in braid 3, or bobbin 3, I'm going to be picking up again with that color, so that in theory I could join this seamlessly and it will all look the same. in theory. We'll see how that actually goes. I do know I have more weight on this bobbin than the others. None of them are exactly the same, so I am going to end up with some extra anyway, but I wanted it to be as seamless a transition as possible, if that makes sense. So I'm resisted yesterday, starting to apply it. I thought, give myself at least a couple of days. And so tomorrow I am hoping that I can start applying it. And I'm very excited to see how it comes out and how similar it will be to the yarn I spun, you know, over a year and a half, or, well, yeah, almost a year and a half ago. So wish me luck. As you can see, I've done this on my traditional wheel, not my electric wheel. And so that was part of trying to duplicate it, is to spin it in the same manner that I did the original. So yeah, fingers crossed. One advantage to delaying the editing of this episode is that I have finished plying my yarn and I can show it to you. So I did begin plying this on my traditional wheel, but I could not get the tension right. So I thought, to heck with it, I'm going to ply it on my electric wheel, which went much more quickly. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's well balanced. It's hard to say for sure. I feel like this is a little bit heavier, especially in certain places like that. Mind you, I know I have some thicker spots in the original, but certainly the color distribution and that, I think the two look very similar. Now keep in mind this, I wound this off the bobbin onto my Swift. I tied it up and it's been washed and dried, but I have not measured it yet and I have not reskeined it. So it looks a little bit, a little bit rough. But, and keep in mind too, this has been wound into a skein like this, you know, and compressed for the last year and a half. And so potentially, it could be potentially closer than it initially looks. I will have a better idea once I do rewind this and measure it with my yarn counter, that's the word. And I never ran this through the yarn counter before because I didn't own it. And so I'm going to reskein this one too, so I get a really accurate idea of just how close in weight they are. But pretty happy with the results and so happy to have finally gotten this monkey off my back. Just a real quick look. I know last episode I did show you some spinning I had done and I had not reskeined it, although I had washed the yarn. So these are both merino nylon blends, so that gives you maybe a nicer, neater look of what I had spun up and shared last time. I am anxious to cast on socks with both of these yarns, and I may do that as travel projects, but I don't know, and I haven't done it yet. So I did cast on 2 pairs of socks since I recorded this episode. First up are my beach day socks. As you can see, I'm doing them toe up. That way I can make sure I have enough yarn for both socks. I won't run out on the second one. So this yarn worked up to be kind of a heavy fingering or light sport. So I'm knitting these on a 2.25 millimeter needle. Initially, I increased to 60 stitches, but I got about this far, kind of tried it on my foot and decided they were just a little bit too big. And so I took it back to the last set of increases and removed those, and so now I'm working on 56 stitches and they are fitting much better. So those are coming out just kind of how I pictured it. I wanted sort of irregular, narrow stripes, and so I'm really happy with how these are working up. And then I also cast on my 3-ply 2 ways. I'm calling these my impatient socks because I was impatient with my yarn, as you will have heard about last episode. And so here they are so far. So again, I did a toe up cast on. I did Judy's Magic cast on and increased to 56 stitches. You can see I'm doing a 2x2 rib on these, and I'm very pleased. I wasn't sure because, as I explained, I believe last episode, there's the braid I chose to use for this experiment was not well defined in its color changes. They were more subtle than some braids of fiber, but you definitely can see the difference in a lot of places between the marled yarn, which is the traditional 3-ply, and then the more solid chain plied sections. So pretty happy with how these are working up. And they're going so fast. It's amazing how much more quickly you can knit a 56 stitch sock than a 64 stitch sock, and using larger needles, of course, too. So enjoying those, looking forward to taking those on our trip with us. Another project, sorry, I have to reach across the table here. I had, as I mentioned, been sitting over there before. So anyway, I am also considering this yarn for a travel project. I had bought this a few years ago. It was from a Knit City box, and the yarns were all kind of winter themed. I think it had been curated for one of the Knit Cities back east. Anyway, this is yarn from Colorista, and it is a BFL nylon, I think. Yeah, 80% superwash BFL or blue-faced luster, and 20% nylon. And the color is an après-midi à la cabane, or an afternoon at the Sugar Shack. And if you're not familiar with it, Sugar Shack is where they make maple sugar, maple syrup. And this yarn was dyed in Quebec, or Quebec. And so I thought it would be an appropriate yarn to take on our trip, since we will be spending the first part of our holiday in Quebec City before moving on to Ottawa for a few days. So I'm trying to think about if I should just cast on socks, or I keep thinking a hat, but I held it up to my head and it's basically the color of my hair, which is really kind of funny. So I know I know the color will look good on me, but maybe it's just a little bit too much like my hair. Speaking of which, it's a little bit wild at the moment. I did not, as you can see, I didn't get made up or change into knitwear or anything. This is just take me as I come today. Anyway, not sure. So I'm kind of stuck in limbo on that one. Another thing that I'm thinking about casting on, and I really shouldn't, but I really kind of want to, is Helen Stewart is putting out a new mystery shawl later this week. And I think I've done all of her mystery shawls, certainly most of them. And I've been resisting purchasing the pattern. It's called the Hedgerow Shawl. And it's a 3-color shawl. And last night I watched, she had put out an episode just talking about the shawl, the types of yarns and you know, various things like that. So of course I started go stash diving, and I came up with like 2 out of 3 skeins for good color combinations. And then I did, one of the combinations I did come up with were these 3 skeins. The color's not quite right as you see it. This one, these 2 are both from Lily and Pine, who I don't think's dyeing anymore. It's the Daylily sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. This is London Fog, and this is Earl Grey. And I did purchase these to be used together. That was my thought. And then this is a skein from All Points North Yarn Company, which is located out of 100 Mile House, British Columbia. And this is the Anchors Away color. And I think I sort of purchased it by accident, forgetting I already had a skein of it. I think what happened is I liked a particular yarn combination so much I bought it twice. And I did make a sweater with some of it, but I have a whole skein left over. And it may not look like it in this lighting. In fact, it doesn't, at least what I see on my screen. But this navy has kind of a purple cast to it. And so the 3 actually go together really well. Color B, apparently, you need a little bit more of because it's going to be used in the border. And so I would use this for color B. So I don't know. I know that the first clue is being released, I think it's the day before we leave. So in theory, I could print it off and take it with me. I don't expect to have a ton of knitting time. We are flying out late at night, so I expect that I'll be mostly sleeping, hopefully sleeping. I don't usually sleep well on airplanes. And then we do have quite a long layover in the airport in Ottawa on our way there. And then, pardon me, when we are finished in Quebec, we are taking the train back to Ottawa and then flying home from there. And, you know, we will have some evenings, I'm sure. So I do want to definitely take some knitting. But then to take like a 3 skein project, maybe that's a lot because we're a little bit more limited in luggage than we usually are. So I don't know. I keep waffling and I really need to make a decision soon so I can get all my travel projects in order. I say projects because the chance of me taking just one is pretty well nil. I just know myself too well. I am hoping to visit a yarn shop in Ottawa with my sister who also knits. And actually, I don't know, my daughter-in-law's sister-in-law to be, who we'll be spending some time with, she's a fairly new knitter. So who knows, maybe the 3 of us will go. I don't know. I've been looking at Wabi Sabi. I've ordered from them in the past, and but I have no idea where they are in relation to where we're staying. My sister and her husband are driving up from Toronto, so we will have a car in Ottawa, but we will not in Quebec. Just trying to think what else I might tell you. We had a very nice holiday, or I guess a little getaway weekend with my mom. It was not very cold up there, not as cold as it usually is at this time of year. We went out to our family cabins on a Saturday and there was actually water dripping from the eaves. It was above zero. I think it was about 3 degrees Celsius, which just is unheard of. And normally at this time of year, the lakes are well frozen over, but the lake that's near our cabin was definitely not solid. Cameron kind of stepped on the ice right at close to shore. There's a portable dock that was put up against the shore for the winter, and he held on to that and kind of went just a few feet in from the shore and could move it and hear the water like sloshing. There was water on top of the ice in places, so very strange. But we had a good weekend with Mom, and then headed back home on the Saturday, or Sunday, I should say. This past weekend, we were kind of getting some things ready for our trip, pulling out the suitcase and going through clothing and trying to figure out what to take. We will have washer and dryers, a washer and dryer in each of our Airbnb locations. So not that we want to spend a lot of time doing laundry, but we can if we want to. So we're kind of just trying to pack fairly lightly because we're only taking one suitcase and a carry-on between the two of us. And of course, with it being winter, we're going to need heavier, thicker clothing than we would for, say, a warm getaway. So I'm sure we'll be fine. And I'll get a chance to wear maybe a couple of sweaters that I've knit. I don't get a ton of chances around here because usually it's fairly warm, especially if I'm inside, which I am most of the time. This past weekend, though, we did go on Saturday afternoon. They had like I can't remember what it was called, but like almost like a food and drink festival or show at our what do you call it? Like at the expedition. I can't even say it. Expedition, no, the place where they exhibit things. We have an agricultural fair where I live every year, and it's the facility is used for lots of other things. Anyway, we decided to go there and partook of a few different wines and sweets, and brought home a loaf of sourdough bread and just had a really nice little afternoon. We don't usually do things like that, so it was kind of fun. And then went out for a glass of wine and a light, kind of late lunch, early dinner afterwards. So yeah, that was fun. And then yesterday, Cameron went off to our daughter and son-in-law's house to watch the Super Bowl. And being so close to Seattle, not that I care that much about football, I'm not a real football fan, but because we're so close to Seattle, that's who we were pulling for. And if you watched it, you know how it all turned out. All right, I think that is it. Not bad, it's only 20 after 4, so I may get this up this evening after all. I have a few comments to catch up on, but I think most of them I've answered. So thank you for keeping the comments coming. It's always nice to interact with you. So thanks so much for watching today, and I will chat with you again in 2 or 3 weeks once we get home and get settled, and maybe I'll have a fibery purchase or two to share with you then, and hopefully some progress on some knitting projects. So take care till then, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.